Girl, it really looks like things gonna change now. With you, my lover, it's you, my love. For so much loving you gave away now, and so much kisses you gave away. There is too much shame, I can't stand no more. So it really looks like things gonna change. Love is so serious, love is so fragile. Ooh, yeah. Why do I keep fooling myself when I know you don't love me? Only a fool break their own heart. Yes, that is true. You pretending that you love me, but I really know you don't. I'm gonna walk through your door. Please don't say no. I'm gonna walk out the door. Yes, please don't say no. Girl, it really looks like things gonna change now. With you, my lover, it's you, my love. For so much hoping you gave away now, and so much kisses you gave away. There is too much shame, I can't stand no more. So I'm gonna walk through that door. What is love? Really want to know what is love? Ooh, aye. Girl, it really looks like things gonna change now. With you, my lover, it's you, my love. For so much loving you gave away now, and so much kisses you gave away. There is too much shame, I can't stand no more. So it really looks like things gonna change. Love is so serious, love is so fragile. Ooh, yeah. Why do
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session where we are discussing micro-budget filmmaking with Zaina Theros. Zaina is an acclaimed filmmaker and an impact-driven creative based in Chicago, USA. She has been recognized as one of Diversity in Cannes top 10 filmmakers of the decade. Zaina combines art and activism in her work. Through her company, Zaina Theros Productions, she focuses on documentary and narrative storytelling, tackling important subjects like reproductive justice, local politics, intersectional feminism, and healing from sexual trauma. Zaina is also passionate about film strategy and ensuring that impact driven films reach their intended audience, with her projects being distributed at academic libraries and screened at prestigious conferences and organizations. Zaina, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
It is truly a pleasure to have you here to come and share your knowledge with us.
Thank you
So,
so much for
whenever
having
you're
me.
ready, you can go ahead and start your presentation.
Sure thing. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Thank you everybody for joining today. We are going to dive into micro budget independent filmmaking. So here's what we're covering. I'll tell you a little bit about me and my background, the podcast that I have that is centered around micro budget independent filmmaking, the advice that I wish someone told me, and then we'll take a look at two of my micro budget film examples, two of the trailers, and I'll walk you through the budgets for those as well. So here is a little bit about me. I've produced nearly 15 micro-budget independent films since 2015 and directed 9 of those projects as well. Actually work full-time as a strategist now. I retired producing, but I work full-time as a strategist, and outside of that, I'm represented as a director, and I make indie films. I've never crowdfunded before. I've never applied for any grants. All of my projects are self-funded because I work a full-time job, or they're co-funded by an executive producer who randomly finds me on Twitter. That's happened twice.
Oh,
They've been distributed on Amazon Prime Video, Quelly TV, Glued, Sophie, IndieFlix, and DocuSeek, and awarded internationally. Here's my website. If you'd like to check out my work, it's just my name, zainathires.com. You can see my films, you can see some of my strategy work, and you can also see some of my awards. A lot of filmmakers ask me about my process. So what I did was I made a podcast. It's called the Micro Budget Independent Filmmakers Podcast. Microbudgetfilmpodcast.com is the podcast website. It's streaming on Apple Podcasts, it's streaming on Spotify. And this podcast is pretty much your crash course in micro budget indie filmmaking. These are the episode topics. You've got producing, script breakdown, budget hacks, production, shoot schedule, marketing, distribution, tax write off, branding yourself as a filmmaker. So, the really cool thing about the podcast is that each season has a corresponding digital workbook with templates. So, you can stream the podcast and then you can go to the website and get the corresponding workbook where you'll see those budget breakdown templates. You'll have a sample production schedule, a sample shoot schedule. It's pretty much your crash course, like I said, in independent micro budget filmmaking. So, you should be able to stream the podcast all the way through and then have the tools to go ahead and make your film. But I didn't want to spend this time talking about the process. I wanted to talk about the advice I wish someone told me back in 2015 when I started making films. Number one, I say this ad nauseum, I say it all the time: write scripts according to the resources you have available to you. I talk to a lot of independent filmmakers. Like I said, I retired producing. I no longer produce. I hand over my projects to a producer now, and I just focus on writing and directing. But when I was producing, I would talk to a lot of filmmakers who would ask, like, well, how are you making projects back to back. I've been trying to crowdfund, or I've been trying to get this film made for 3 years now. And my answer was always the same: I write what I can shoot. I don't have a ballroom. I don't have a helicopter. I don't have access to, a Lamborghini or like very, very expensive things. So I'm not going to put that in my script. What I do have access to is an iPhone. What I do have access to is one of my friends who's a cinematographer. I'm a self-taught editor. I have access to my apartment. I know people that are actors. So what is the most incredible thing that I can write in one room with two characters? If you look at a lot of my films, most of them take place in one single location. And it's really fun and it's really challenging to find sometimes a location that looks like multiple locations, but we're shooting in one single place, and most of them can be filmed over the course of a weekend. So because I'm writing with those parameters put in place, it makes filmmaking a lot more tangible and doable. So write scripts with the resources that you have immediately available to you. Number two, one of the things to keep in mind is that collaborating with filmmakers is not exploiting them. And I get a lot of filmmakers that are concerned about this, but as a micro-budget indie filmmaker who works a full-time job, I may spend an entire year saving up $6,000-$7,000 for an independent film. I can't pay SAG rates or studio rates or what these big budget studios could pay a camera operator or could pay a sound person. So volunteering on a film project with other filmmakers, collaborating with other filmmakers, that's not unethical. As long as you are giving them non-monetary incentives, some sort of incentive for being a part of the project, which we'll get into, it's not exploitative. You are not a filmmaker, again, that is a studio. You don't have millions of dollars. You're an independent filmmaker who's trying to scrounge something together to maybe get into some festivals. So don't be afraid to network across. Don't be afraid if you meet a filmmaker at a film festival like we're at right now, or an event, and you're like, hey, I love your work. I've got this script. Would you be down to read it? And if you're interested, I'm filming at my apartment on this day. Like, would you want to be a producer on this? Or would you want to be a production designer on this? Nothing wrong with that at all. Again, if you can ask strangers for money to crowdfund, you can ask indie filmmakers to collaborate with you. I've never crowdfunded because the idea of it's pretty much to me like walking up to a stranger and being like, can you give me $5 for my film? And that to me is just something that I am not confident in doing. I'm way more confident in talking to other independent filmmakers and asking if they're down to collab, like I said, on a Saturday or Sunday, than trying to push a crowdfunding campaign, trying to push grants. So yeah, that's my style of doing things.
Okay.
But on that same token, remember, exposure is vague. It's not an incentive. So try to do something more valuable, like experience. Anytime that a filmmaker agrees to collaborate on a project, or I reach out to them to collaborate on a project, I always provide a project deck that outlines the incentives that they're going to get for being a part of the project. So one of the first things I offer is a level up from their existing role. If they're a camera operator who's never gotten a chance to be the director of photography or put together a shot list or lead the camera team, then absolutely you can do that on my project. If you are an art director or an art assistant who's never got a chance to be the lead production designer, then that's your role. Go for it. If you're a production assistant who wants to produce and move up, you absolutely can have that title, that role. So giving people the experience of being on something that is really creatively collaborative, where they can own their department. You might not be able to, provide them monetary incentives, but that is something that is enticing to them. I also love offering opportunities for first-time filmmakers. Sometimes a lot of film students who are recent graduates come to me and ask to be on projects. The first thing that people look for is like, you don't have much experience. But some roles are great to just dive into, like production, that can be guided. Art direction, they can be, given your prop list and told, here's your budget of $100, go to Amazon, go to thrift stores. That's your challenge, to go decorate the set. I try to stay away from first-time opportunities for things like camera or sound, because those pertain to the quality of your film. But there are plenty of filmmakers, even actors. I've worked with first-time actors that ended up being signed or being awarded for being a part of my films, and it was their first time being a part of it. So take a shot on people. I also provide in that deck a full list of the film festivals that I intend to submit to. They need to know that I have intentions of distributing the film beyond just like putting it on YouTube or putting it on Vimeo. It's like, these are 15 film festivals that we're targeting. We of course can't guarantee that we're going to get in, but it shows the intention that you want this project to be seen. So it's an incentive for them, because the work that they're going to put into this project is going to go, it could potentially go very far. I also provide the production schedule, so they know when they're going to get the final footage for the reel. And then I also provide the entire film budget for transparency. If I say to someone, hey, I can't afford to pay you, but I've got $3,000 to film this 1-day shoot on a Saturday, and here's what the budget is going towards. It's going towards feeding everybody. It's paying for transportation for everybody. It's paying for the location, props. It's paying for all the film gear. This is where it's going. So people don't feel like you're getting over on them, because you're being very transparent about where the money is going if they cannot be paid. Mm-hmm. So saying, hey, can you want to be a part of this project? It's good exposure. That's not an incentive. Providing an entire deck of what they're going to get for being a part of the project, that is an incentive for showing up on a Saturday or Sunday. Another piece of advice I wish I knew, or someone told me, like, the cheapest films that you can make are silent films, narrated films, or horror films. Most of my early films, the ones that I made for like less than $500, are silent films. You don't have to worry about a sound person. They could be filmed in a very short period of time, like 1 day, because you can film a lot when you don't have to set up sound or worry about syncing audio. It's very easy just to focus on the actual shoot itself. And it's a good creative challenge to tell a story without words. Narrated films, it's another version of silent films, but a lot of my films are narrated, where we're on the days of set, we're only just filming the visuals, and then I'll go in and I'll record on my iPhone the actual audio for the project. It's a huge way to keep costs down. And then horror films, it doesn't take much to scare people. It really doesn't take much to scare people. There's 20 seconds of silence in a dark screen, or footsteps could be absolutely petrifying. You can do very terrifying situations in one location, in a car, in a house, in a kitchen. So these are things that you can really play on in terms of tension. And that doesn't have to be expensive at all. Gear is expensive. So these are ways that I get around that. Number one, I try to book a DP that owns a camera already. And it's like, if I can collaborate with someone who owns whatever camera, then my gear budget goes down, and maybe we can spend that on like lenses or lights. But if you have the body of the camera, if you already have the camera, which tends to be the most expensive part of production, if you got that coming with your camera operator or your director of photography, your DP, that saves costs. I also love sharegrid.com. ShareGrid is a camera and gear rental site for filmmakers, where people own the gear and they rent it out. So it's kind of like Uber, where you have someone who, that's their car, but they're letting you use it. They're letting you book it. You're letting you service it. So there's weekend packages. There's been like Arri Alexa, Red cameras, Canon C300, these really, really high quality cameras for weekend rates of like $850. Things that it would cost a really, really large amount of money at a traditional camera rental house. It's way cheaper if you're getting it directly from the person who owns it. Okay. This is something that I learned for myself before I even started making films. While I was in film school, I was in a cohort of people who wanted to write these multi-million-dollar scripts and go to Hollywood and pitch and try to get meetings and try to get signed, and pretty much go and try to beg a very capitalistic cesspool to believe in their work. And I just knew that wasn't for me. I'm like, I want to tell stories. I'm a writer, director. You're a producer. You're an editor. Like, why are we not making things? I want to make things. I don't want to go plan to make things. I want to actually do the thing. And so I think ultimately it's really important that independent filmmakers know that it's okay if success as a filmmaker looks different for you than others. For me, I love working a full-time job and being a filmmaker. I love filmmaking on my paid time off. I love filmmaking on my weekends. I like the fact that my bills are covered and I have health insurance and I have a 401k and I've got these things in place and my needs are met. So because of that, I can make films how I want to make them when I want to make them, because I'm not making my films to sell them. I'm not making my films to try to pay rent. I'm making my films because I love filmmaking. And that takes a lot of the pressure off of it and opens an avenue for freedom and for autonomy, because I'm not trying to prove to an entity that this is going to make money. You know, like I can make exactly what I want to make. And to me, that is successful. You know, being able to self-fund projects, internationally distribute them, and kind of create my own path and lane as an independent filmmaker is success. So you have to find out what success means to you. And we're seeing that a lot in the States, in the state of Hollywood. There's a lot of striking, and a lot of people are redefining what it means to be a filmmaker. So always keep that in mind. So now we're going to go into 2 film examples. We're just going to look at some trailers and the budgets really quick. This one is called The Love You Want Exist. I sent over the trailer. Let me know if I need to drop this in the chat again. Oh, okay. It's in the chat. Go ahead and click the chat, and we will be back in 2 minutes. Okay, viewers will probably watch the trailer at a later time. Okay, we can continue with the panel. Got it. So this particular film had a $5,600 budget. It's called The Love You Want Exist. It's about a couple planning a commitment ceremony that is free of patriarchal traditions and misogynistic traditions. And their family and friends think they're absolutely crazy for doing this. So it's a comedy, but they end up creating a beautiful ceremony that is really reflective of who they are as people. We filmed this for, again, a $5,600 budget. I put up $3,500 of my own, and then an executive producer that found me on Twitter and found my films donated another $2,500 to the project. That went to booking the location, the camera gear, catering for the cast and crew, film festival submissions, props, and wardrobe. Again, we did this all in one location. So it was 2 indoor days and then 1 outdoor day. The wedding ceremony or the commitment ceremony was actually in the backyard. And then the next film, again, this is New Santa. It's on Tubi right now. And I forgot to mention, The Love You Want Exist is on Kweli TV, Kweli TV. And then New Santa is on Tubi, Tubi. This is about the North Pole doing a diversity, equity, and inclusion overhaul and firing Santa Claus and appointing a Black woman in his place. So it's a comedy. It's about Christmas and capitalism, and it's about the true meaning of equity. She's changed the North Pole policy to give gifts on a household income scale. So the kids who are very well off are the ones who get the donated gifts, and the kids whose families are not doing as well financially are the ones who get the best gifts. And it's a conversation around equity. I wrote most of these films as well. So this one had a $10,000 budget. My production company that signed me as a director, Sweet Ricky, this was almost like a signing bonus, if you will. They were like, we love this script that you wrote and we actually want to make this happen. So they gave a $10K budget. This was filmed in an Airbnb in 1 room. The entire film takes place in the living room. This was filmed in 2 days. The $10,000 budget, we had a lot of gear and everybody volunteered. My teams loved this project, but their stipulation was, this has to look really good. And so we had the Black Magic camera, we had so many lights, we had a dolly, we had everything that we needed, and it looked amazing. It recently won Best Comedy at the International Black and Diversity Film Festival as well. The Love You One Exists won several awards too. These did very well in the festival circuit, and the team is so happy. So yeah, that's how that was broken down. Okay, now we have time for questions. Any questions?
Okay, is
Throw
there
them in the
anyone who
chat.
has questions? We have a chat section that we're supposed to be writing questions on.
Bash is asking, Tandy, do you have any questions?
For me, I'm just blown away on how you are using the whatever you have on you, and how you are able to source out people to come and contribute into whatever you are doing, and then be able to give them a platform where they can grow and showcase their skill as well. That's just it takes it for me. I don't have any question at the moment.
Okay, no worries. Thank you so much for sharing, though. I appreciate the compliment. What has been your highest budget in your previous projects? $10,000. The $10,000 project for New Santa was the biggest budget. My feature film, which I'm in development for, has a $20,000 budget. So we'll be doing an entire feature film in one location for a $20K budget. We're using the SAG-AFTRA micro-budget film agreement, which means that it's SAG approved, union approved, as long as the budget is $20,000 or less. So we're excited about that. You know, we are able to do small crew stipends. We are able to get everything we need. And again, it's a one location feature. So yeah, the biggest budget so far has been 10K. The next one will be 20.
Okay, what has been your highest budget? Nomzamo in the comments is saying that session is.
Do you guys have some sort of support in the States or institution in the arts sector? I'm not sure. I'm fully independent. So like grants, things like that, I'm just not privy to. I'm that filmmaker again that has a full-time job, and I have a monthly budget that I just put away for my independent films. It's not much, but that's what I base my scripts off of. So I'm not sure what support or institutions are stateside. I'm sure there are plenty, but I haven't looked into them.
So, question from me. Zaina, since we're trying to spend as little money as possible, would it be sort of ethical to say, I'm going to use AI to generate my scripts, to do everything for me in terms of script writing and so on, and then just go onto Unreal Engine and then just do everything over there? So you eliminate the need for cameras, script writers, lighting directors, sound, and everything, because everything will be on Unreal Engine. Would it be feasible as well as somewhat ethical to do that?
Not for me. I don't have any interest in eliminating people for robots. I enjoy collaborating with human beings. So no, that would not be something that I would do.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we don't have much questions yet. So Tande and Zaina, thank you so much for joining us. It was a really insightful program, panel this afternoon and morning for you, Zaina. So Tande, you can take us home.
Okay, thank you so much, Zaina. That was quite insightful. For me, I've learned so much from this session, and I'm sure everybody at home, wherever they're watching us, have learned something. We have a challenge as filmmakers to try and work together to just get what we want to get out there, even if we're not really getting paid monetary, but just for the passion of making movies, we need to get started and do what we need to do immediately. I learned that from this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.